This in quite some time, but I wanted to go through and reevaluate some Dynasty fantasy football values. I wanted to go through and look at what a hypothetical Dynasty fantasy football mock draft would be. Obviously, we have players like Justin Fields just absolutely skyrocketing up. I'm not going to waste your time. Let's go ahead. Let's start this bad boy. And as we start this, if you have not done so already, fix your life, drop a like on this live stream, subscribe to the channel if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football, and of course, if you want to tell me how stupid I am, you can do so. Just make sure it's down there in the comment section. So we have Dragon Isles getting kicked off here at the 101. Goes Josh Allen. Of course, this is going to be a Superflex Dynasty League. If you play in a one quarterback Dynasty League, you can cry to me. I'm not really going to care. Just to know, yeah, move the quarterbacks dramatically down. Okay, everything else is going to be about the same. You just got to move those QBs down. Starting off with 4 quarterbacks off the rip, we're going to be at the 106. I feel like we are I don't want to say no man's land, but we are in a difficult spot in general. Let's see what Jacob decides to do. I mean, there are 3 guys on my radar with this pick, and I know we're probably Deshaun Watson was going to be my name. I thought we were going to surprise some people and go Deshaun Watson here, but sadly that can't happen. I mean, I think that you can make a strong argument for Jamar Chase, for Justin Jefferson, for Joe Burrow. Honestly, I think it's up to you and how you would like to build your dynasty team. Based off what we've seen with the first 5 picks here, I'm just going to lean with I'm just going to lean with Joe Burrow. I think you can make a strong argument for Chase. You can make a strong argument for Jefferson. But if we're looking at the first 5 picks in this Dynasty League as quarterbacks, hell, there's a good shot that the rest of this Dynasty draft is going to be filled with these QBs. So it can't hurt too bad to go through and get someone that had about 500 passing yards in a single week. I mean, 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago at this point, before the Jamar Chase injury. We have Kyler falling down to 11. Kyler still has the rushing upside, but obviously Arizona has looked pretty damn bad so far. And let me pull up this live chat. We got Kevin, Parlay, Patrick, North America, and Mikey out here. Thank y'all so much, everyone, for coming out and hanging out with us in this live stream. And like I said, if you have not done so, drop a like on this stream if you want more Dynasty content. I'm going to try to get more out here. Was going to do a Dynasty video this week, and I was sitting around going, what can we record? That's going to be really helpful. I don't want to just do like a buy low video. Figured might as well go ahead and fire up just a straight up live stream so we can talk about a little bit of everybody in Dynasty. But CeeDee Lamb goes at the 112. What's a little funny here is if we look at this sleeper ADP, sleeper ADP is never really good, if we're going to be honest. Like if you compare it to underdog ADP, obviously underdog ADP is just significantly more efficient. Of course, not for Dynasty, but sleeper ADP is slow to begin with, especially now that we're during the season. This ADP is not going to be helping you out much at all. We have gone through and we have updated our Dynasty rankings on locals. I think we did it last week, the last time, pretty much every other week for a while now. But now, see, we have JT going off the 109. I mean, I'm not going to fault anybody if they still want to have Jonathan Taylor as the running back 1 in Dynasty. If you still want to have JT as the running back 1 in Dynasty, I mean, honestly, very funny, but I think that there are so many different players you could point to in Dynasty fantasy football in particular, where you can say, oh, no, that's the running back 1. No, that's the running back. In reality, it's probably Bijan Robinson, and that'll be the guy that we're looking at a year from now. Now, I'm probably going to make a surprise pick to a lot of people. Y'all know, historically speaking, I have been off of this guy. I mean, I was talking about him being one of the most overrated players in the 2021 rookie class, but based off of him just setting the NFL record in rushing yards at the quarterback position in an individual game, based off of what I know we could sell him for if this was a real league. Do we have to take Justin Fields here? Let me know what y'all think about this pick in the live chat. I mean, I think it's a difficult spot in general. I mean, y'all know I'm not a big Fields guy. I think that he's still not great real life NFL quarterback. But from a fantasy football standpoint, obviously you have the rushing upside here. So we're going to scroll down way to the bottom end of ADP. We're going to go Justin Fields. I'd really prefer to take someone like Jalen Waddle, but it is what it is. Now, can y'all do me a favor in the live chat right now? if you had to rank the running back 1 in Dynasty, who are you putting at 1? Like I said, I mean, I think you can make an argument. It's Taylor, it's Walker, it's Etienne. Maybe you want to say it's Swift. I think it's Bijan Robinson. Obviously, we can't draft him on Sleeper just yet. But this is the first time in a long time where I feel like it's been hard to figure out who the actual running back 1 in Dynasty is. Okay, so we have a couple people saying Kenneth Walker in here. I mean, Kevin says nobody. I mean, I kind of agree with you. I think there are a lot of guys that are comparable, but hard to narrow someone actually down. And I already know we're going to get a lot of hate for this Fields pick. It is what it is. It is what it is. I mean, you know, I'm not a Fields guy, but I think Fields in actual Dynasty leagues has more value than pretty much almost anybody else in the second round here. Not everybody, but the majority of people. It is going to be a third round reversal this draft. So please, if you're looking at a screenshot of this later on, make sure you're looking at the little numbers next to it so you have a better idea, because I know we're going to have some people not understanding that this is a third round reversal when they're just skimming to the end of the video here and not really helping themselves out at all. Okay. But Ash on the clock has Lamb and Andrews. Goes A.J. Brown. Honestly, very surprised to see Dragon Isles decide to go Stephon Diggs. Actually, I shouldn't say we're that surprised. I mean, I would imagine that Dragon Isles will still probably prefer having A.J. Brown in Dynasty over Diggs, assuming the reason they decided to do that is because they had Josh Allen and they wanted to give the Buffalo stack. Obviously, I mean, if y'all don't know, Dragon Isles, a long time member of the flock here. God knows how long Dragon Isles has been in the flock. Probably longer than I have, to be honest. Okay. Now, we have Tua Tagovailoa going at the 303. Okay, I thought we were going to start our draft off with potentially 3 QBs out the gate. Looks like that's not happening. Richard says these people are drafting out weird. You have to keep in mind a couple things. A, I did not let anybody know we were doing a Dynasty rookie mock. I mean, we were doing a Dynasty startup mock draft. So none of these people had time to prepare. It's a 30-second timer, and Sleeper has garbage ADP. So keep in mind those 3 things if you're thinking people are drafting a little weird here. Dalvin Cook at the 304. I'll say this Dalvin Cook pick is straight up bad. Yeah, Dragon Isle says Diggs solely because of Allen. Yeah, that's what I figured as soon as we said it. Let me have a quick caveat. You know, I try to be a little neutral here. I don't want to say any individual pick is bad after I've gotten so many things wrong over the years. Hard for me to tell someone their pick was bad, but I know one thing, and that Dalvin Cook pick at the 304. No bueno, ladies and gentlemen. No bueno. I mean, I see a lot of players on this board I'd rather have over Dalvin Cook here in Dynasty. Let's scroll through this. Just make sure we're not missing anybody. T. Higgins off the board. Higgins probably would have been the guy that we are going with. So now I think we have to pivot over to make a selection that I'm not that excited about, but it kind of is what it is. Oh my gosh, what are we doing here? We're going to go Tyreek Hill. Yeah, we're going to go Tyreek. It's difficult to figure out when you're in this range because I would feel like at the 307, there are a couple different ways that we could take this. We could decide to go with the player that's going to give us production immediately and kind of build around a team that maybe is going to be productive in 2023. Tyreek Hill has over 1,100 receiving yards so far this season. The next best receiver sitting at about 860. Like, Tyreek Hill has been absolutely dominant. But obviously, Tyreek is an older option where if we take Tyreek, all of a sudden we are kind of pigeonholing ourselves into a team that should be thinking about production in the short term. But keep in mind, if we were drafting this team for 2023 and beyond, we'd have the entire offseason to make trades. So we should primarily just focus in on the actual value that we're going to be getting with these individual players. You have Javonte Lance going off the board here at the 309 and 310. Can you all please let me know in the live chat right now, what did you think of the Tyreek Hill selection at the 307? I think T. Higgins would have made significantly more sense if we would have had Higgins falling to us. I mean, Higgins would have given us that flexibility of building that win now roster. Or, I mean, a team that's thinking for the long term, we'd have had to stack with Joe Burrow. So Quinion stealing our pick at the 306. Not great, but if you don't like the Tyreek Hill selection, let me know who you would have rather had in the live chat. Because the one guy that I think I would have possibly rather had, I think we're still going to be getting him on the way back around in the 4th. And that's why we kind of panicked and went Tyreek Hill there. Richard said he would have gone ahead and he would have taken a running back. If you were to take a running back, are you rolling with Najee, Chubb, Eckler, Javonte? I mean, I'm a little bit more willing to assume that Tyreek Hill, I mean, just with the utter dominance we've seen so far this season, continues to produce at the wide receiver position a little bit longer than what we may have with Austin Eckler, who's been great just as a pass catcher, and obviously he's the running back one as well. But Eckler gonna be 28 very, very soon, right? Is Austin Eckler already 28? Let me pull this up. Austin Eckler's either about to turn 28 or no, he's going to be 28, and I apologize, not that soon. He's going to be 28 in May, so about 6 months here. We have Dobbins at the 401. Ooh, Dragon House. Let me hear the Dobbins thought process. I do not like it. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't like the Dobbins pick. Please let me hear this Dobbins thought process. I understand why you went Diggs. I think when you go Diggs, it makes a lot of sense to take Eckler there, where you are getting that win now roster with Diggs, Eckler, and Allen. Feels like the Dobbins pick a little bit off the map. Okay, so Debo going at the 403. Obviously, Debo Samuel, big time follower here with CMC coming over. We have Amon-Ra St. Brown at the 404. Phenomenal. If I look at my Dynasty rankings right now, why do I not have these rankings up? I mean, I posted this on local, so everybody that is in this draft has access to my Dynasty rankings. But let me see where I have Amon-Ra St. Brown as well as Chris Olave versus Tyreek Hill. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and take our next guy. Someone that I think you could have considered in the last one. You know what? No. Specifically because we take Tyreek Hill here, and we possibly want to build a little bit more win now. If you look at my Dynasty rankings, we are going to have Drake London right there with Davante Adams. Like, we have Drake London at wide receiver 12. I have Davante Adams at wide receiver 14 in my Dynasty rankings. So London is best player available for me. I think you can make an argument to go ahead and take Joe Mixon as well if we're going to get the stack with Joe Burrow. I'm a little bit more willing to take the veteran wide receiver than I'd be to take the veteran running back, however. So if you were looking at my Dynasty rankings and best player available, the best player available would actually be Drake London. However, we're going to pivot over and take Davante Adams specifically because we had Tyreek Hill at 37. They're not too far off, and I think they're just two opposite ends of the spectrum on how you're looking to build your roster. Okay. So we have London going off at the 410. We have Dameon Pierce, the 409. I know a lot of people are going to be screaming how good of a value that is with Dameon Pierce. But let me make sure that we have these Dynasty rankings up going forward, because this sleeper ADP, it's not as simple as, like, if you're in an underdog draft, you know, you're really only taking guys in the top 10 picks. Like, that ADP is so efficient. They're going to have it down to a T, but I mean, you can't blame sleeper because obviously it's during the season here where so much has changed and there are not many mock drafts happening, but you got to be scrolling down in these rankings. You're going to be missing out on a player or two. Okay. Yeah, like Sky Moore is still at 95. Allen Robinson's still at 100. This is super flex ADP here, and they have A-Rob ahead of Kenny Pickett. Hunter Renfrow ahead of George Pickens and DeAndre Hopkins. So yeah, we got to make sure that we are being a little wary of what we have. Okay. Cole says the 301 is too low for A.J. Brown for me, in my opinion. I completely agree. I think you can make an argument that A.J. Brown should be higher than the 301. Not going to fault you at all for saying that. Okay. Now, Kenny Pickett at the 503. Interesting pick with Kenny Pickett there. I don't want to say it's bad, but I mean, if we looked at where he was valued coming into this season, I thought Kenny Pickett was a clear buy low guy, and he was valued significantly behind this. You used to be able to get Kenny Pickett in like the 6th, 7th round of these startup drafts, and he has 2 passing touchdowns, 8 interceptions right now, and his value's gone up. Very, very interesting. Let's go ahead and maybe find our next guy. Let's just go off our Dynasty rankings. Let's not try to just build a team that's maybe all in to win right now. Let's build a little bit of a balanced roster where I think what we may actually do is go way off board here. I think we're going to go way off board. Given the Claypool trade, let's go ahead. Let's go for it. We're going to go George Pickens at the 507. I don't think it's going to come back around to us in the 6th. This is probably a bad pick. In Dynasty, I think if you look at Claypool being removed, if you look at how efficient George Pickens has been so far his rookie season, probably a spot just to kind of plant the flag in the ground saying, I mean, if we were looking at George Pickens compared to like a 29-year-old Derrick Henry in Dynasty, Pickens is probably the guy to go with. I mean, Derrick Henry 28 right now, but will be 29 by the end of the season. I have no faith in the Carolina Panthers turning around this situation anytime soon. Let me know what y'all are thinking of the Pickens pick. Let me know if y'all think we could have waited until the next round. Think you make an argument that George Kittle should be the direction we would have gone in. Let me know what you're thinking. Okay. Hawkinson goes to the 509. Hawkinson was someone that we were thinking about taking there at the 507. If it was a tight end premium format, I think you could make a strong argument to go with one of the tight ends. Okay, so Aaron says George Pickens or Garrett Wilson. So Garrett Wilson was already off the board here at the 411. Drake London was off the board at the 410. If you're looking at my rankings right now, I have Garrett Wilson ahead of George Pickens. I'm going to stand by that, but I do think it's closer now that we have Claypool being moved. Claypool being moved, I don't know if that changes too much when it comes specifically to Deontay Johnson, because Deontay Johnson was getting volume in already, and the man just wasn't being productive with that given volume. But George Pickens was doing a lot with a little. Now, if he just gets some more targets going in his direction, I think he could take that next step forward. Okay. Now, Derek Carr off the board at the 511. Deontay Johnson goes to the 512. Took Deontay Johnson a lot in redraft leagues this year, just thinking, oh, okay, well, the market's saying you don't have Ben Roethlisberger here, so he's not going to get 10 targets a game. I think he gets 10 targets a game still. I mean, we are kind of right about that. He is averaging 10 targets a game, but he has been horrendous with it. He has been the least efficient wide receiver in the entire NFL. I mean, he's doing the least with the most. So, I mean, from a dynasty perspective, not that excited about Deontay. Now we have the true wide receiver one in Denver going off the board here at the 603. Hollywood Brown off at the 602. Ramondre Stevenson goes. I know a lot of people are going to be excited about Ramondre. You do not have Damian Harris under contract next year in New England. Let's go through, find our next guy. I think we're going to go off board here again. There's some players that are like way down here in this ADP more than the guys at the top. But the thing is, at the same time, the guys way down there in ADP, they have a decent shot to make it back to us. Whereas these guys at the top probably will not. Do we take Kamara here? We took Adams. We took Hill. We're kind of going in to build a win now roster. Kamara drafted in 2017. The same year that you had guys like Eckler, Mixon, CMC being drafted. Sure, we'll go Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is a few years younger than Derrick Henry here. Like, let me pull this up with the exact age for Kamara. I know some people are going to be concerned about a looming suspension. I think that there are a few players available that I like a little bit more than Kamara, but we can get those guys later on in this draft if we're looking at their ADP. Alvin Kamara, 27, turning 28 in July. If we're looking at Derrick Henry, 28, turning 29 in January. So you'd have Derrick Henry about a year and a half older than Alvin Kamara. I would assume that Kamara probably ages a little bit better as a running back that should get the majority of his volume, the majority of his value as a pass catcher, very similar to Austin Eckler, who goes at the 312. Now, the guy I would have taken here wouldn't have been Jameson Williams. Actually would have been Devonta Smith. I thought we were going to be able to sneak Smith back around to the 707. Clearly doesn't happen. Samuel says you take Henry there over Kamara. Take the greater current production despite the age. Nothing guaranteed from Kamara in years to come. Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, you can say that from anybody. You can go, oh, nothing guaranteed from Joe Burrow. Like, what exactly does that mean? I'm not going to fault you too much if you want Derrick Henry, but I mean, if you're looking at a points per game basis, like, let's look at this. Alvin Kamara game log here. So you look at the beginning of the season when Alvin Kamara was injured, obviously not great, right? At the beginning of the season when Alvin Kamara was injured, only 9 carries. That's not getting the job done, leaving the game early. But since Kamara has been fully healthy, 15 carries, 23 carries, 19 carries, 11 carries, 18 carries, 7 targets, 6, 9, 9, 10. This past week, Alvin Kamara, 3 touchdowns, 10 targets, almost 100 receiving yards. Oh, just killed a mosquito. How did a mosquito get in here? So I think we are going to go ahead and say Alvin Kamara is probably a better option in Dynasty. If he's giving you comparable production to Derrick Henry right now and is a year and a half younger. Okay. Tyler says, how is Devonta Smith's situation going to get better? I mean, Smith is still a low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3 in fantasy currently. Obviously, the target concentration is only between 3 guys in this offense. So real quick, Calvin Ridley was another one of those guys way down in ADP I thought we were going to be able to get later on, as well as Gabriel Davis. Those were 2 great picks by Crazy Fisher as well as Ash Springer. I got to give you all some big-time props on those. Okay, Derrick Henry off the board here at the 705. Let's continue to build the nastiest, old, crusty team you're going to be able to find in a Dynasty startup. So let's go ahead. Let's take, instead of someone I think we can get later on, a player that I think has a very low chance of actually making it back to us. Y'all know that I am of the opinion that age does not really matter at the quarterback position. Matthew Stafford's been very bad this year. Matthew Stafford's been very bad from a fantasy football standpoint. You know that you need a ton of passing volume for Matthew Stafford to be an acceptable option because this will never be a quarterback that runs the ball. So the exact opposite pick of our Justin Fields selection at the 207. And the man doesn't even have 2,000 passing yards. And we're 9 weeks into the year for Matthew Stafford. He's 34 years old. We have the track record with Stafford, however. I think that he can turn it around. I think Stafford has a guaranteed job in the NFL, 3 to 4 years minimum. I think he is going to be a guaranteed top 24 quarterback in fantasy, 3 to 4 years minimum. And if we're comparing him to someone like Amari Cooper, that goes right behind him, Christian Kirk, I'm going to be fine with taking Stafford here in that Superflex format. I know some people don't like it. Honestly, I don't care if y'all tell me you don't like the Stafford pick. I think the Stafford pick is phenomenal. Not as good as the Freiermuth selection. I really thought we were going to be able to get Pat Freiermuth on the way back around in the middle of the 8th. Freiermuth was the next best guy, in my opinion, outside of Matthew Stafford. A great pick with Pat Freiermuth. I think Freiermuth is very similar to George Pickens, where he wasn't getting flooded with targets earlier in Pittsburgh so far this season, but he's been significantly more efficient than someone like Deontay Johnson with those given targets. So I think the departure of Chase Claypool does dramatically help Pat Freiermuth. Like, I'm very excited about Freiermuth, and that is a phenomenal pick. If you were looking at his ADP was much lower than this. Okay. Great pick with Pat Freiermuth. I mean, Freiermuth has been secretly very good so far this season. Not secretly, but quietly very good. Okay, so Aaron Jones goes at the 801 here. What's interesting with Aaron Jones is if you look at the contract, not really guaranteed to be a Green Bay Packer next year. Like, there is an outside chance that if the Packers continue to spiral out of control, that this team goes, you know what, F it. Rodgers refuses to play with us next year, so we're going to have to go through and trade him. We're going to have to go through a harsh rebuilding process starting in 2023. They could save a lot of money from letting go of Aaron Jones. So I wouldn't be that surprised if Aaron Jones was not a Green Bay Packer next season. I don't know if they are going to decide to do it. I think it does depend a ton on Jones in his own health and production the rest of the way, as well as what happens with Rodgers in the offseason and if this team thinks they can make a run at it in 2023. Okay, so let's scroll this down, see. Are y'all really letting me get Courtland Sutton here? Y'all really giving me Courtland Sutton? This late in the draft, you are going to be just gifting me Courtland Sutton. Are you kidding me? Obviously, we're not taking Courtland Sutton. We'll add some of their queue there, just in case we don't want to go with anybody at the top. Yeah, I don't like any of these names at the top. We're actually going to pivot over to a younger option. We're going to go over to Jahan Dotson, who was very good at the beginning portion of the season. Of course, he's definitely fizzled out, had the hamstring injury. We haven't seen the man in a very long time. So naturally, when you are not playing, your value is just going to go down. I can't make too many arguments against it. But John Dotson, good prospect coming out of Penn State. I mean, the man was averaging like 45% of his receiving yards his final two seasons at Penn State. 45% of the receiving yards in that offense. He was absolutely dominant. He's pretty good in Washington through the first stretch. I don't think Curtis Samuel's some long-term option in Washington. Obviously, would be a little bit more excited, however, if you did not have Terry McLaurin signing the long-term deal. Okay, but we have Cam Akers at the 807. That is an auto pick. Should I switch this? I'm going to change this pick because nobody in their right mind would ever take Cam Akers. I'm going to put it just for someone else that's at the very top. We'll go Darren Waller here. Nobody's ever taken Cam Akers in this range. I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever taken Darren Waller either, but I feel like it's a little bit more of an acceptable of a pick. So we're going to switch that just so the draft board stays a little bit more real, if that makes sense. Hopefully nobody gets mad that we did that, but I think it'll be a better mock draft if we don't have a team auto drafting Cam Akers at the 807. Okay, so we have Gesicki at the 810. Okay, Quan in the chat says he was trying to take Zeke. I'll switch it to Zeke for you, my friend. If Zeke is still here, we'll switch it to Zeke Elliott. There we go. I know that the 30-second timer does make it where we are going to have some auto drafts, but if you come in and tell me who you want and nobody's taking them right after, like if Zeke was drafted at the 808, then I'm not giving you Zeke, but we'll swap it over for you. Now, Montgomery goes at the 811. So Montgomery also was a running back in that 2019 draft class that is not sitting there with a contract for 2023. So it will be interesting to see what we end up getting with David Montgomery in this entire situation for the Chicago Bears. I would be screaming right now that James Cook is phenomenal value, that, oh my gosh, got to go James Cook because Devin Singletary is one of those 2019 running backs where he's not under contract. Now they trade for Nyheim Hines. I think James Cook may be a little bit less appealing here. Let me look at what's the Nyheim Hines contract, however. Like, I just don't think it's a good thing for them to be trading Hines regardless, because I'm trading for Hines. Kind of tells us what they think about James Cook. That they drafted James Cook to play in that passing down role, and they're like, oh, no, you know, we see you, and we don't like it enough to confidently rely on you. So Nyheim Hines has a total of $0 guaranteed dollars in 2023. They would either keep him and pay him about $5 million or decide to move on from him for free. Going to be interesting. Okay. So Sky Moore at the 903. I'd say Sky Moore is one of the biggest rookie busts so far this season. There are a couple other guys we could be looking at, but is one of the biggest. Let's try to scroll deep here because I know there's probably going to be a name at the very bottom end of this list that's better than anybody else at the top. Khalil Herbert would have been someone that we were intrigued with. Okay, so let's go add this guy to the queue just in case we don't find anybody else we like. We'll go through. We'll take Rondale Moore. It's an interesting spot. I don't know. Oh my gosh. Such a tough spot. Darren Waller's just been absolutely garbage this season. I know Darren Waller goes down and has missed a large chunk of the season with an injury, but at the same time, Darren Waller's older. On top of this with Darren Waller, he wasn't really getting involved early. Like early in the season when he was fully healthy, like he didn't have a lot of Darren Waller action. With Rondale Moore here, Hollywood Brown has the injury history. DeAndre Hopkins is very, very old. Rondale Moore has flashed. He was a good prospect coming out of Purdue in the 2021 draft class. So we'll go ahead. We'll take Rondale. I think it's a fine pick, not a great pick. But, I mean, compared to other guys in this range, I mean, I think we do take him. Now, Kadarius Toney was one of those other wide receivers we added to our queue. Kadarius Toney was one of the other wide receivers we added to our queue. We have one or two more guys that we are going to be looking at. I mean, I think there's one player that's been plummeting that maybe we have to take. I know we haven't taken a lot of running backs, but the thing is, I mean, I think the 2023 class comes in. I know some people have lowered their expectations with these 2023 class of RBs compared to where they were like a year ago, but they're still going to be good. Now you have Christian Watson at the 9-12. Christian Watson was another name we added to our queue. So we had Rondale Moore, Kadarius Toney, Christian Watson, and one other player in our queue. And we decided to go Rondale Moore. With Christian Watson, I almost want to say that I would be more willing to give Christian Watson a break than Sky Moore. Watson had the hamstring in training camp, hamstring in the beginning portion of the season, finally makes it back, gets knocked out with a concussion, misses the rest of week 8, then in week 9, clears concussion protocol, goes out there, gets knocked out with a concussion. So Sky Moore's just failed. Sky Moore is face planted. Christian Watson has face planted, but you can tell at least the injuries tripped him, right? Like Sky Moore and Christian Watson face planted, but you can say with Sky Moore, oh, he face planted because the hamstring and the concussion just pushed him down. He had no chance. Elijah Moore was another wide receiver we were looking at. Elijah Moore is probably going to be my pick here. Obviously, someone that has lost a tremendous amount of value. I mean, probably the biggest faller in Dynasty at the wide receiver position among every young player, particularly. Okay. Let's go down and see if we can find something else after every one of our wide receivers goes. David Njoku off. Do we want to go with the tight ends? Fine, I'll do it. We'll take Darren Waller at the 10.06. This could be a wasted pick. Darren Waller's been very bad so far this year. Hell, we took Devontae Adams at the 4.06, so maybe we just want to go through and make the one concentrated bet on the Las Vegas Raiders passing offense. Somehow make the bet that it's going to work out. Don't love Darren Waller, but I think if we're getting him behind Dawson Knox and David Njoku, it'll be a fine selection. It'll be a fine selection. Name Soggy says we can see the queue. Oh, I thought our box was covering up the queue. Never mind. I was adding players to the queue thinking that we were able to hide that and maybe not get them sniped from us, but thank you for letting me know. Luke says, why does Josh Jacobs go like 20 picks after Najee Harris? Here's the thing that happened with Josh Jacobs, and here's why Josh Jacobs was my most drafted player in 2022 best ball leagues, because we are getting him in the 7th round. There's a entire community of fantasy football analysts that don't really do any of their own research, but instead it's a cool boys club. If you want to be in the cool boys club, you know the players we gotta like, you know the players we gotta hate. If you don't like the players that we like, if you don't hate the players that we hate, you're an idiot, and honestly, you have no idea what you're doing. That's how the fantasy football analyst community operates. If you didn't love Courtland Sutton this year, you weren't in the cool boys club. You had to love Courtland Sutton if you wanted access into it, if you wanted to look like you knew what you were doing. If you wanted to look like you knew what you were doing, you could not ever in a million years speak a positive word on Josh Jacobs or draft Josh Jacobs even when he was falling to the 7th and 8th round. So I think that, honestly, it's just fantasy analysts not doing their own research and going and spewing unwarranted hate on Josh Jacobs that pushes his value absurdly low. It's why he was my most drafted player this past year. I mean, I was saying don't draft Josh Jacobs after his rookie season based off the fact that he wasn't catching passes and he was a 1st-round pick in redraft leagues, but like, it just gets a little absurd. Now, going over and trying to find our next guy. Oh my gosh, what the hell are we doing here? What the hell are we doing here? We'll go James Cook. We'll go James Cook, and maybe they don't sign Devin Singletary this offseason. Devin Singletary, like we said, on the last year of his rookie deal, the same time Nyheim Hines has no guaranteed money next year. So, 2nd-round draft pick, has the team investment, good pass catcher, elite offense. We'll go ahead and we'll take James Cook at the 11.07. Okay. And David Bell at the 1108. I mean, I kind of like going through and buying low on David Bell. I don't know if we can take David Bell here. I do like buying low on David Bell. I know people hated us for going through and putting David Bell as a top 24 rookie still in this class when we went through and updated our rankings. I know people are not a fan of that. Name Sagi says, I think Jacobs has looked good, but with the free agency coming and the 2023 class, I think it's impossible to take him over London Wilson. I'm not saying otherwise, my friend. I'm just answering the question on why everybody hates Josh Jacobs. Because if you go through and look historically, Josh Jacobs, in my opinion, was a better option in fantasy drafts this year than he was back in 2020. Because with Josh Jacobs, he had proven that he could catch the ball. With Josh Jacobs at the same time, you had Davante Adams coming over, so the offense projected to be a little bit better. And however, people are saying you're an idiot if you drafted him in the 8th round. I don't know. Of course, that's not Dynasty. I mean, where we stand with Jacobs now, I think people have kind of had to take their L on Josh Jacobs. I agree. I'm not taking Jacobs in Dynasty over Garrett Wilson, Drake London. Like, I'm not making an argument you should be taking Josh Jacobs in the middle of the 4th. Like here, we took Davante Adams instead of Josh Jacobs. I don't know. I don't know why. How we even went on this little Josh Jacobs rant. Now, Adam Thielen going at the 11-11. Dragon Isle's on the clock. What is happening here? Sleeper freeze? Terrace Marshall, Devin Singletary. So, looked like it was an auto pick. I think, honestly, my sleeper just froze for a second because those players were nowhere near the top of ADP. So, Joey, let's see what he decides to do. Says he's on auto, but it's counting down here. And good Romeo Doubs pick at the 11-09. I did not even notice that. Good Romeo Doubs pick. Now we have Rachaad White at the 12-03. Honestly, maybe Rachaad White's just a better version of James Cook. Like, I should have taken Rachaad White over James Cook. That's on me. I think my James Cook selection was probably pretty bad if Rachaad White was still available. Okay, so let's move this down. Kadarius Toney at the 12-05. That was going to be our selection here. I thought that we had that kind of locked and loaded. But now, I mean, maybe we can go through and find a backup option. I'm not taking Davis Mills. I refuse to do it. I'm never taking Davis Mills. Maybe Isaiah Spiller. Maybe Trey McBride. Yeah, we'll go ahead. We'll take Trey McBride here. I mean, with McBride, wasn't a phenomenal prospect by means, but he was a pretty good tight end rookie prospect. Drafted in the 2nd round out of to Arizona. Obviously, we have Zach Ertz, Zolda's dirt. I don't know if Zach Ertz is going to be here in the long term, so I think that you probably have a pretty good spot when it comes to Trey McBride expanding his role for the Cardinals. Let me show this entire draft board off if you are just now coming in here. And if you're just now coming in here, please, we're 4 likes away from hitting 100 likes on the stream. Make sure you're going down there and dropping a like on this live stream. Ashton says Jacobs and Kenneth Walker going to carry my underdog teams. Yeah, literally Josh Jacobs and Kenneth Walker are my most and second most drafted running backs on underdog. Like, we tweet out our underdog results every single week this year, challenging people, saying, if you've had a better season than us, then show me. I don't think there's a single person that has been able to show us that they've had better underdog results than us so far this year. And main reason for that is we're rolling with Josh Jacobs and Kenneth Walker in pretty much every single one. Jacob says, what just happened? I had David Njoku. I was wondering that same exact thing. I was wondering the same exact thing here, my friend. I think Sleeper's bugging out because I noticed this as well with Kadarius Toney, where Kadarius Toney had been drafted earlier. So Sleeper is going through and starting to mess up with these picks. Honestly, I think it's a good spot to just cut the live stream then. I don't know why this is happening so often. Yeah, this is like the third pick that has auto change. So we're going to go ahead, probably going to cut this live stream here. I'll do another updated Dynasty startup draft for y'all later on in the season. Of course, we'll be doing these pretty much every single week after the year. But thank you again for being a part of the flock. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great day. And if you haven't, go down there, drop a like on this live stream. Subscribe to the channel if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. Thank you again. And I think that's it. We'll see you with the video later on in the week, or maybe if you're going and checking out the redraft channel, I'll see you in the live stream tonight.